From Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, and the home of hot chicken, it's the Rick Altizer Show. Sit back, buckle up. Rick will talk with the movers, shakers, and creators who put Christ in Christian entertainment. He's a man who's clear so the world can hear. Here's Rick Altizer.
Thanks for joining me today. I'm so glad you're here with me. Today's guest is someone you are very familiar with. It's actor Kevin Sorbo. Kevin was the star of Hercules. It was the most watched TV show in the world in the 90s. He has appeared in over 50 movies and about as many TV shows. You might have seen him in Soul Surfer, or perhaps you remember him as the professor in God's Not Dead. I met up with Kevin in Nashville after he was a featured speaker at the NRB convention. Here's my interview with Kevin Sorbo. Well, today I have actor, author, director, producer, martial arts expert, Kevin Sorbo. Kevin, thanks for being on my show.
You forgot philanthropist, but that's okay. Good to be here. Good to be here.
We are here at the Opryland Hotel after a speaking engagement. And just getting from where we were at the hotel to here, I'm exhausted.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
Well, we'll just start by just that experience, just walking from that one place to another where you were just swamped by people. Everywhere you went, people were coming up to you. Normal people don't have that happen. How do you navigate something like that?
I think Los Angeles is interesting because a lot of actors live in Los Angeles, so people see them. But they act a little cooler about it, I guess. I mean, I know when I go out in L.A., if I eat at a restaurant with my wife and kids, a lot of times everything's pretty cool. And then when you stand up to start walking out, then people will whisper, "Hey, I love your movies," or "Hey, I love your show," and the waiter will say something on the way out. And I don't expect people to know who I am. I honestly don't. But in an event like this, in this hotel, I think because of the nature of we're here for the national religious broadcasting thing. This is the audience that likes the faith-based movies I've done. So I think they go a little more crazy when they see you in person.
So just as we're walking, and people are coming up to you, they're all wanting to get a picture with you. And one guy was handing you an idea for a script. And it was just like every 10 steps you took, there was another 10 different people wanting something from you. But there was this adulation. Does the praise of men, does that affect you?
No, not really. I mean, like I said. I think because of the characters I played overall, most people certainly know what the faith-based ones have done. But I've done like 50 movies, and the 2 TV shows between Hercules and Andromeda. There's like 250 hours of television there. But those characters are approachable characters. In television, you're in their bedroom, you're in their bathroom, you're in their living room, you're in their kitchen, whatever. TVs are everywhere. So I think people, because they see you week in and week out, they think that they know you. And so I get approached and people laugh and think, "Oh, it's so fun to meet you." So there's only been a couple times where people come up and been really kind of like jerks towards me and wanted to start a fight for whatever reasons. Mm-hmm. But most people are really, really nice. And like I said, I don't sit around expecting it, but it's nice. It's nice to know people like your work. And my wife said that I'm the most famous person outside of Hollywood. Because, being a Christian, being a conservative in Hollywood, those are 2 strikes against me. Yeah. They really are. And I have seen the drop-off of offers to do mainstream movies, to do guest spots on high-end TV shows, or even read for new pilots on TVs. I don't see those anymore.
Well, working in Hollywood, where they're so hostile to the gospel, as a Christian, how do you share your faith with that element of the people you work with who are, avidly not Christian?
I will say something on a movie set if somebody says something. If they get all negative and they say they're atheists, and I'll say, "Why are you an atheist? What made you get to where you are?" And I'll tell you what made me get to where I am. I love a debate. I'll talk about it if somebody really wants to talk about it. So that probably makes me not, the perfect Christian, because you're supposed to get out there and bring people and be the light that Jesus was.
I want to just ask you about your Christian journey, your Christian faith. How did you come to faith?
I know of a moment when I was 14 years old when I saw Billy Graham speak. I was blown away back when I was in junior high. Maybe I was 13 years old. I remember getting the goosebumps and getting the feeling and all that. And I've had it, I would say my illness was huge for me when I suffered 3 strokes. That was huge for me.
Well, let's get into that. You had an aneurysm in your shoulder?
My left shoulder, my left subclavicle, yes.
And so these blood clots got into your...
They'd been sending clots into my arm for a long time. I don't know what it was. I just knew these fingers were getting numb and cold because the blood clots won.
At this time, you were Hercules.
Doing Hercules.
You were on the set 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
You were in great shape.
Sure.
You're a big hot shot.
I thought I was.
You're on top of the world. And then this thing happens with your stroke. So then what happens after that?
I just wrapped season 5 on Hercules, and I was going back home to promote Call the Conqueror. Had another movie waiting in the wings called Black Dog with Universal again. So they were basically gearing me up to take over for Arnold Schwarzenegger, be the next big action guy. And things were looking like that was going to happen. Hercules, the year before, just passed Baywatch as the most watched TV show in the world. We're in 176 countries. It was booming. And I went to see my doctor who found a lump in my shoulder. And I could tell in his face it bothered him. He told me later, after the strokes happened, he thought it was cancer. He thought it was Hodgkin's or something.
Oh, my goodness.
He thought it was a cancer. So that's when I went to see my chiropractor. And the neck crack happened there. And he never cracks my neck. It was weird that he cracked it. But the aneurysm was so close to the artery feeding in the brain that movement forced it to pop open. Hundreds of clots went in my arm. By the time they rushed me to the hospital, this arm was basically blue. They just stuck a needle right in there with heparin, Coumadin, and blood thinners just to pump it through there to break up all the clots that they could break up. And but unfortunately, the strokes happened. And I'm very fortunate that it didn't kill me. I'm very fortunate it didn't put me in the hospital the rest of my life or in a wheelchair the rest of my life. And 3 strokes of the brain can go anywhere, right? Well, 2 went to my balance center, 1 went to my vision. I still have a 10% loss in both eyes. But the balance was brutal for me. I mean, the dizzy spells I had, it was a horrible feeling. It took a year and a half before I saw a decent improvement. I mean, there was improvement, but it was very slow. But all of a sudden, a year and a half into it, I had 1 week that I felt kind of normal, and then the feelings came back in. But I didn't lose hope. I said, okay, whatever I'm doing for physical therapy, with balance exercise, with eye exercise, whatever I had to do. I knew that I was on the right track. And then the third year, and when the second year finished, the third year, it went boom, boom, but got better in big steps.
So after 3 years,
So after 3 years, people wouldn't be able to tell. I know that I still have some things left over. I still have a 10% loss in both eyes. And if I get overly tired, I get balance issues.
You're listening to the Rick Altizer Show on Bot Radio, 89.1 FM, 1160 AM, Nashville. And now we return to my interview with actor Kevin Sorbo. So here you are, having achieved success in the world's eyes, everything the world has to offer. Here you are, Kevin Sorbo, you've got it. And then this happens, you have this stroke. How did you respond to that? How did you deal with that emotionally?
I think I went through the 12 steps that alcoholics go through and everything else. Denial, anger, frustration. I railed against God. I was angered. Why did you do this to me? God didn't do it to me. In fact, he tried to warn me. He told me not to let the chiropractor crack my neck, and I didn't say anything. And you just had to get to a point. My wife's a New Yorker, and she's tough, and she just said, it happened. Now what are you going to do about it? Because it happened. So every day, I just pulled myself out of bed, and I did what I could with my exercise and my therapy to slowly get back. And I accepted it, and I think that was a big turning point for me to really follow God more, when you could follow the other way, I guess, and just get angry and say, oh, why did this happen? So I railed, but I realized it was, I remember there was one night when I went out I pulled myself up these stairs. My flat was 1 step up to the balcony of the apartment complex, and I remember crawling up. There was a hot August night, and the moon was full, and there was nobody up there. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I wept. I cried. I felt like somebody had died. I felt like I lost someone. I did, because I knew I would never be that same person again. Physically, mentally, psychologically, I would never be the same person. And it was a turning point for me just to have that moment of sorrow, that moment of feeling the pain of loss, and just letting that part of me go, and accepting this new Kevin.
Do you see God's sovereignty in that?
Sure.
How do you see God's sovereign hand in that? He
wanted me to get out, and I brought up this before with Bethany Hamilton when I did Soul Surfer, because I met Bethany. I've known Bethany since 6 years ago when we shot the movie, 5 years ago. And I just had dinner with her, actually, when I was in Kauai after Christmas, and we went over to her house to meet her new husband and her baby. Here's a 13-year-old girl that loses her arm surfing to a tiger shark. Her reaction is, this is God's way of saying I should spread his word. A 13-year-old. How many adults would react that way? Be hard-pressed. They'd be feeling sorry for themselves like I was and blaming everybody else for their problems. I know that for me, when those strokes happened, I reached a point where I said, you know what? I'm supposed to use this. And I don't know how many use it. It took a long time for me to get to that point. It took me a long time. My wife wanted me to write a book, which I wrote a book.
You have a book called True Strength about this.
Yeah. And it's really the triumph over tragedy type of situation. What do you do when you hit that roadblock? Because we all hit a roadblock. Doesn't matter. I don't care what age you're going to be in your life. You are going to hit that roadblock that you go left or right with your life, and your health is at, death and life is there. How do you react to that? And for myself, it was finding that acceptance and realizing God wants me to use this. And my wife was instrumental in making me get that book out, because I didn't want to do that. I did not want to expose to the world how weak that I'd become. Because I'm a guy, I'm a jock, I'm in great shape, and all of a sudden this happened. So what am I going to do to make sure that nobody knows? But she said, let people know. And I'll tell you, it's been a blessing since that book came out, because I do a lot of speaking engagements. I get people from all walks of life, car crash survivors, heart attack, stroke survivors, what doesn't matter, whatever illness, cancer survivors, and they say that my book made them stop feeling sorry for themselves and made them push themselves. Because I'd say, you know what? We set limitations on ourselves. Everybody else sets limitations. You get sick, what do your family and friends say? Just take it easy, take it easy. I'm a jock, no pain, no gain, right?
Yeah.
Can't get that crowd that we just left, couldn't have done that for 2 years. That was too much. People talking, noise. I couldn't go to restaurants. My brain wouldn't handle it. But I started putting myself in that situation. I realized, I said, we have to go out. My wife knew that. It's going to knock you out for the next 3 days. I just would lay in bed with migraines and everything else. But I said, if I don't make my brain get stronger, then I'm going to have to sit in a room watching stupid reruns of television the rest of my life.
What do you think brought this on?
I honestly don't know. I don't know if it was stress related. I don't know if it was all the years lifting weights, because it's happened to baseball pitchers, that repetition of throwing a ball where their bone and muscle have made an aneurysm form in an artery. If it was something biological from when I was a kid.
Well, you were saying, I made this happen, I did this, I decided I was going to do this, and go, was that something you did in your own strength, or was God empowering you with something outside of yourself to give you strength that wasn't within you?
You know, you're asking great questions. I got to say it had to be, and it had to be His, because I already had that in me. That when something bad happened, when something said you can't get this job, or you're not good enough to play varsity football, I'm the one who's always pushed myself. When anybody says you can't do something to me, that just fuels the fire for me. It fuels the fire, and I'm like ready to go. So I think I got to accept that God gave that drive in me. That don't tell me that I can't do something sort of mentality. I've always had it.
Have you always wanted to be on top of the world?
I always wanted to be on top of the world, but I always wanted to be successful no matter what I did. And I think that was ingrained from my parents as well.
So there's this power of the praise of men that is just everywhere you go. People are praising you. You've got this success. And yet there's this desire in you to serve God, to be faithful to your wife, to love and to honor Him with your life. How do you navigate being humble and humility through all of that?
Because I think, I'm a 13-year overnight success, and I remember that. I remember the lean years. I remember clipping coupons and Kraft macaroni and cheese with tuna in it, And it's funny, people ask, what's been the most gratifying part of your career? And it was the fight to get to where my career is now. I love those years. I love the years of grinding through LA traffic, taking acting classes, hitting the pavement, getting turned down for jobs left and right. Did I get frustrated with it? Sure, I wanted to work more. But I appreciate all that stuff. Every successful person I have met has said that failure is what they learn from. And the next failure. And they became successful because they didn't give up. FDR said it best, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And people fear. They fear failure. So what do? They end up with their lives just being complacent. And they're angry and they're upset and they're frustrated. They hate their boss, they hate their job, they don't like their lives. I don't want to live like that. Mm-hmm. People are very nice when they come up to me. If they don't come up to me, I don't go, nobody came up to me today. It never really enters my. I think humility is there because I know what it was tough to get there, and for me, I like to work. I mean, I've shot close to 50 movies. There's probably 10 I wish I wouldn't have done. But, at the time, they looked like they were good parts. But
well, you go on to IMDb and you look up Kevin Sorbo, and it says hardest working man in showbiz. It seems like you do, a dozen movies a year.
Well, no, it was that many, but...
No, you go on there. You did 14 movies in 2016, 11 in 2015, 13 in 2014.
But some of those were shot before, and they're just still in post-production. So it looks like they're going that way, but they weren't shot. I average probably about 5 a year, 6 years, because I've done the last 11 years. I have shot close to 50 movies. So I know the IMDb looks kind of weird because I've seen that too. So and I don't sit very well. The strokes maybe opened my eyes to certain things, but it didn't slow down my work ethic. I like to work. I love being on the set. I love the camaraderie of working with the crew on both sides of the camera. I keep a loose set. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody I've worked with that says that I'm a jerk to work with. I don't think you'd find it. I don't mean that I'm tooting my horn. That comes from the upbringing I had in Minnesota. My dad was a school teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I'm the fourth of 5 kids. And they taught hard work. They taught, yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, sir, no, ma'am. It was always manners and stuff like that. And I think a lot of parents don't do that with their kids. They don't want to be parents. They want to be friends with their kids. You need to be a parent.
You're listening to The Rick Altizer Show on Bott Radio, 89.1 FM, 1160 AM, Nashville. And now we return to my interview with actor Kevin Sorbo. So when you do a movie, how long does it take for you to be involved in it?
Well, it depends on what I'm involved with.
Because I know you produce and direct.
Yeah, but I would say if I'm acting in a movie, I try to get it crunched in as little time as possible because I don't like traveling so much. I still travel. I do a lot of speaking gigs too, but I like to stay with my kids. We homeschool, so they travel with me. So if it's longer than a week, then my family travels with me. But there are jobs I've had that have been 2-week gigs. They squeeze it into 1 week. Saying, okay, we'll just shoot all your stuff out in a week, if they can do it. But most movies are 3 to 4 weeks. People think longer, but not. We're not doing Avatar, which is going to have 1,500 CGI shots and stuff like that. That they shoot for a year or something, like Lord of the Rings. I'm on the road maybe, Hallmark movies maybe used to run 5 weeks, and now because of budgets and because of the economy, they've squished those down to anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks now.
So then with this career and traveling, how do you juggle that with your family?
Well, as I said, if it's more than a week, they travel with me.
That's great.
Which is great. We homeschool for that reason. The kids have been growing up movie sets. I was gone 8 months 2 years ago, and they were with me for 6.5 months of those 8 months, which was great. Otherwise I wouldn't see them. And I would say, okay, do I not see my kids? Or, I'd rather see my kids. So my wife doesn't like public schools, so that's why we do homeschool, so that it's not like a burden on her. And with her radio show, she can do it anywhere she goes.
She can do it mobile, anywhere?
Yeah. They send the equipment to her in wherever hotel or whatever they set up for us to live in for those 2, 3, 4 weeks, and she just gets up and the time she's supposed to do it and does it. So,
and that's the Sam Sorbo Show. She has her own radio show. It's a 3-hour show. It's both political and religious.
Yeah, nothing controversial.
You said it's the number 12 show?
Number 12 right now.
In America? So you're both a hardworking, successful couple. How is marriage through all that?
It's good. Sometimes we got to reintroduce ourselves to each other, but we try to always. I'm an early riser, and now she's become an early riser because the show starts at 6. So when the alarm goes off at 5, we have a nice half hour together just to chat then. But before we go to bed at night, we always catch up on life and the day and stuff like that. Because when her show's done by 9, and if I'm not working, if I'm not doing anything, but I get up early, so I do a lot of my email stuff with potential investors, script reading, all that kind of stuff. I get out of the way. So when we're ready to go with homeschooling, we're ready to go with the homeschooling. And with the kids, they're still involved in public school sports with football and basketball and track and all these, swimming, whatever it may be. So we're cab drivers, and we work out that schedule. Okay, you drive Octavia at this time, and you pick her up. I'm taking Shane here, and Braden's going to go to that. Okay, then I can pick those 2 boys up after there.
Shuttle service.
I'm blown away that everything's only 3 miles away, maybe one way, but I can put 50 miles in a day. Just 3. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys. I'm not a neat freak, but I definitely do a lot of cleaning around the house, and I love doing the cooking. And I'm always getting rid of stuff. I'll go through my kids' class and I go, well, you don't wear this. Come on, Goodwill, let's give this away. So I'm always trying to size down because, we're such a, buy society, and it gets to a point, it's like, no, let's not do it. But I'm also hard with my kids with physical education. That's a big part of my life, too.
I know that you have a charity that you work with as well, with kids in that area.
A World Fit for Kids. We're on our 19th year now, and it's we're the number one after-school program in the state. And the first hour is physical education, something physical. Second hour is working with their school, whatever problems. Third hour is life. Let's talk about what you have going on in your life and what are you nervous about? What's your goal? What's your dream? I mean, it's just really to get these kids to open up and have conversations with adults and amongst each other.
So you have so many things going on in your life, movie career and marriage and kids and success and being in the public eye. How does your faith connect all this together? How is your relationship with Christ? Where is Christ, and how is He connecting all that in you?
You know what's amazing is when I did my first faith-based movie, which was What If, that opened my eyes to a lot of things. And it's not that every movie I want to do has to be family-friendly or faith-based, but I like it, and I like that world. And I've got one coming out here in June, Joseph and Mary. I've got one that I'm going to be directing and starring in called Let There Be Light. We're fully funded, which is unbelievable. And it's exciting, and these are great scripts. These are great work. I mean, Dan Gordon wrote Let There Be Light. And for people out there who don't know Dan, look him up on IMDb. I mean, he wrote Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner. He wrote Hurricane with Denzel Washington. I mean, he's a great scriptwriter. And I'm very excited. I like being in this world. I like it because I see what's going on in America politically. See what's going on with it. This country's founded on Judeo-Christian values. We are now a secular, socialist country. They've never worked. That's never worked. You can look at the history of countries that end up that way, and where do they end up? They end up where Europe is today.
Bankrupt.
Yeah.
Morally and fiscally.
Oh, yeah. There's no question. And you see it going on. And we need to educate our kids. I mean, with this under 25 crowd, thinking that socialism is a good thing. They don't get it. They don't understand. So, tens of millions of people have died in the name of socialism. Just look at Russia. It was the USSR, the United Socialist Soviet Union. Nazi meant National Socialist. I mean, that's this whole talk about getting rid of guns out of the private hands and controlling education even more. I mean, you look at what's going on in our public schools. We're pathetic. We rank somewhere in like 57th in the world. I mean, it's just government wants to control. Lenin said it back in the early 1900s. The best way to control the people is through education. And that's what they're doing in this country. And people think I'm some conspiratorial theorist. It's not. This country's falling apart, and we need to get it back.
Do you think it's falling apart from a political agenda, or do you think it's falling apart from a spiritual perspective because the church
is quiet,
is more concerned about making you comfortable than about teaching you the truth?
No question. I think both those things.
And we've lost our moral compass.
JFK, I challenge anybody to watch his 1960 inauguration speech on the internet and listen to the words he says. Tell me that's not a Republican talking today. That's how far left everybody's going.
Right.
JFK would be a Republican today. He talks not only does he talk about any threat to America that will come after you, he talks about his greatest quote ever, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. It's on his gravesite, for crying out loud.
You think about the teachings of Christ, it's about giving, it's about others.
Yeah.
It's an others-centered gospel.
This free mentality is insane. I used to live in Vancouver for 5 years filming Andromeda. Signs everywhere. Please do not feed the bears. They will become dependent on you. Hello, works for people too.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being on our show. I appreciate your time and your candor and some of these questions. I hope they're okay.
They're okay. It's all good.
How can people find out more information about what's going on with you?
Well, go to kevinsorbo.net. I got a brand new site out there, just launched last week, and people can find out all kinds of information right there. And go to the Kevin Sorbo official Facebook page.
That's a long title, but that's what you have to do.
I had to do it because so many people are copying my name. I couldn't get
Kevin Sorbo official Facebook page.
I post a lot of stuff.
And kevinsorbo.net.
And I do my own posting.
Well, all right. Well, thank you for being on the show,
cool.
Kevin. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I would love to connect with you online. You can get more info on my website, rickaltizer.com, or how about on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Rick Altizer Show. By the way, Altizer is spelled Altizer. I want to thank the great folks at Bot Radio for supporting this show, and most importantly, I want to thank you for listening. I'd love to hear from you, so be sure to check us out again next week as we discuss how we communicate the gospel through media to our culture. Let's be clear so the world can hear. I'll talk to you next week, and thanks for listening.
There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. Romans 8:1. For God did